Hello, Dark Case family. Welcome home. There are few words as horrifying in the English language as "you have cancer." And horrifically, these are words that 50% of us will hear in our lifetime. And at that point, you are pretty much at the mercy of medical professionals. If you are fortunate enough to have a chance of recovery, then you really have to put your trust in the process laid out in front of you. Whatever happens, the road won't be easy. But what if your treatment didn't just have side effects, but it was the thing that would end your journey in the worst possible way? It was the 3rd of June 1985. 61-year-old Katie Yarborough visited the Kennestone Regional Oncology Center in Marietta, Georgia. She was to undergo radiation treatment following a lumpectomy. She was prepped for electron treatment to her clavicle. The machine used for Katie's treatment was the THERAC 25. The purpose of the THERAC 25 was to deliver highly targeted radiation therapy. It was computer controlled, meaning data was input into it, and then it essentially did its thing. The radiation blasting robot hummed to life, and then Katie felt an intense, searing heat. "You've burned me," she cried, but the technician insisted that that was simply impossible. There were no visible burn marks on her skin, just a warm lingering on the surface. The treatment finished and Katie returned home. But soon, her pain escalated. Her shoulder froze into position, and an angry red swelling spread through to her back, her skin peeling away in agony. The investigation revealed she had been exposed to a staggering radiation overdose. It was potentially as high as 20,000 rads. Typical doses for this treatment were normally no higher than 200. As an idea of how serious this actually was, just 1,000 rads can be considered a lethal dose. The patient was extremely lucky to escape this incident with her life. However, she still bears the lifelong impacts of this incident. Part of her chest had to be removed. Her shoulder, along with her arm, remained in an essentially paralyzed state, and Katie now had to live her life in chronic pain. And although her life had been in one way saved, she had also suffered a hugely traumatic and negative experience at the hands of this machine. Nobody involved wanted any of this to have happened. A lawsuit was raised and then settled out of court. At the Ontario Cancer Foundation, a THERAC 25 had been in operation for 6 months. It was a regular day, July the 26th, 1985. A 40-year-old woman walked in for her 24th treatment for cervical cancer. The patient, who was ready for her treatment, settled down onto the table. The technician, familiar with the routine, initiated the treatment. But within 5 seconds, the machine stopped. An error message flashed. It said, H-tilt. The operator looked at the dosimeter, and it showed that no radiation had been applied. They then pressed the P key to proceed, but the machine halted again, and again, and again. It did this 5 times in total before the treatment was aborted. At this point, a technician was called in to perform a thorough check. However, no issues were found with the machine. The THERAC 25 continued to treat 6 more patients that day, all without a hitch. Perhaps this time it was a harmless issue, or maybe user error, but no such luck. 4 days later, the woman returned, and now she was complaining of severe burning and swelling in her lower abdomen. Due to obvious concerns, the woman was hospitalized. Medical professionals suspected a severe radiation overdose. The woman had, in a way, been cooked from the inside. This led to the THERAC 25 machine temporarily being taken out of service. However, this action could not undo what was already done. On November 3rd, 1985, the female patient passed away. Her autopsy revealed devastating facts. Even if she had survived her original illness and this medical disaster, she would have needed a hip replacement due to the radiation overdose, an overdose that was estimated to be between 13,000 and 17,000 rad. The incident was reported to the FDA and to the Canadian Radiation Protection Bureau. The manufacturer of the THERAC 25, AECL, suspected a fault with the microswitches. However, when they tried to confirm the malfunction, they simply couldn't replicate the issue. So whatever happened was just an anomaly. They went on to modify the software, claiming a 5 order of magnitude increase in safety. But the dark shadow of the THERAC 25 had only just begun to spread. Fast forward to December 1985, we are now at the Yakima Valley Memorial Hospital. A female patient developed a strange erythema after her treatment with the THERAC 25. An erythema is basically a red patch, probably caused by trauma. The redness is due to increased blood supply and dilation of blood vessels. The hospital reported this incident to AECL. The company then confidently replied that a radiation overdose was pretty much impossible. The letter sent by the AECL in response stated that a THERAC 25 overdose was not possible without a machine failure or operator error. Yet, 6 months later, the woman developed chronic ulcers, and worse, tissue necrosis, something that can be caused by radiation. The woman underwent surgery to try and rectify her medical issues. However, only a limited amount could be done. And she did live on, but she was plagued with persistent reminders of her ordeal. East Texas Cancer Center, March 21, 1986. Here, the THERAC 25 had treated over 500 patients without incident. But that day, a patient came for his 9th treatment for a tumor situated on his back. The machine operator, known to be experienced and meticulous, accidentally entered an X instead of an E for the treatment type, but she realized her error and corrected it. The machine then displayed the message, "Raise, ready, crisis averted." Or was it? As soon as she hit the B key, the machine stopped with a malfunction 54 error message. The dosimeter showed that a relatively low dose of radiation was delivered. The operator, undeterred by the previous message, pressed P to proceed. Again, the machine stopped with the same error. Inside the treatment room, the patient felt a sharp electric shock, and he began to get up. But as he did, the operator pressed P once more, and another jolt was delivered. This was a shock even more intense than its predecessor. Along with the jolt, a loud crackling was heard. And as you may know from my previous videos, a crackling sound when radiation is involved is probably not a good thing. As a result of this second blast, the radiation felt as if his hand had been torn off. He banged on the door of the room until the operator finally let him out. A physician was called into the room and an intense erythema was seen in the area. The patient was sent home. He was thought to have somehow experienced a minor electric shock, but as you have probably gathered, this wasn't the case. Sending the man home was a grave mistake. The patient had in fact received a huge dose of radiation. It measured between 16,500 and 25,000 rads. This dose was delivered in just a fraction of a second, and on an area of skin around 1/4 of an inch squared. Treatment of the man continued, but things kept getting worse. He terrifyingly experienced paralysis of the left arm, nausea and vomiting, and he was hospitalized for radiation-induced myelitis of the spinal cord. His legs, mid-diaphragm and vocal cords also ended up being paralyzed. The man survived for 5 agonizing months, before finally his time on this earth came to an end. The cause being a massive radiation overdose. Less than a month later, on April the 11th, 1986, the same operator was back at work. This time, a patient needed treatment for a facial skin cancer. Once more, the THERAC 25 monitor showed the malfunction 54 message. The treatment was administered, and again that dreadful sound was heard. The terrifying crackle of radiation out of control. The patient felt a searing, burning sensation, and by this stage, you can probably guess, they received a violent blast of radiation directly into their head. Due to this, the patient ultimately lost their battle on May the 1st of the same year. His autopsy revealed critical radiation-induced damage to the right temporal lobe and brainstem. The medical facility and AECL needed to replicate the error that had occurred. If they could do that, they could stop this from happening to anyone else. It was discovered that rapid data entry could have reproduced the error, but AECL initially couldn't replicate this event. Back at the Yakima Valley Memorial Hospital, now on January the 17th, 1987, another patient was in a treatment room preparing for their therapy. The operator fired a test dose of radiation using film verification. This shows the field affected by the radiation blast. Adjustments were then made to the aperture and it was ready for treatment. But when the operator hit the B key, the machine stopped after 5 seconds. It displayed a fleeting error message. The operator entered the treatment room to make some manual adjustments to the turntable. They then returned to the controls of the THERAC 25. Treatment could now finally begin. P was entered onto the device to proceed with the treatment. The patient could be heard through the intercom system. However, their words could not be made out. A dose of radiation was delivered. But once more, it was far greater than was prescribed. In fact, it was around 100 times greater. The patient felt a severe burning sensation, and then came the reddening of the skin. Within hours, they developed physical burns. In reality, he had received between 8 and 10,000 rads instead of just 86. This patient survived for around 3 months until his time on this earth came to an end. His family settled out of court. In many tales of tragedy, there is a hero. And in this case, it is a man named Fritz Hager. He was a diligent staff physicist at the East Texas Cancer Center in Tyler, Texas. After the second incident at the facility, Fritz was resolute in his mission to uncover the truth. In both cases that took place at the facility, the THERAC 25 displayed the cryptic malfunction 54 message. This error code was strangely not mentioned in the manual. AECL later explained that it meant the computer was essentially confused. It couldn't determine if there was an overdose or underdose of radiation. Now remember, the same radiotherapy technician had been involved in both incidents at the center. So Fritz brought the technician back into the control room. They endeavored to not leave the room until the problem was solved. This could well save lives. With the technician running the machine, after hours of testing and retesting every possible combination of actions, they finally pinpointed the issue. The VT100 console used for entering THERAC 25 radiation prescriptions allowed cursor movement via up and down keys. If the user selected X-ray mode, the machine would begin setting up for high-powered X-rays, a process that took around 8 seconds. If the user switched to electron mode within those 8 seconds, the turntable wouldn't switch over correctly, leaving it in an unknown state. All prior testing had been slow and careful, as one would expect. However, due to the nature of this error, that type of testing was totally inadequate. It simply never would have created the combination of actions needed, nor within the time span they needed to occur in. It took someone who worked with the machine daily to find the error. Finally, Fritz could demonstrate how to produce malfunction 54 at will. But even with this smoking gun, the ability to recreate the error, convincing AECL would be more of a challenge. It took numerous phone calls, along with multiple detailed fax reports, before the company could replicate the behavior in their own machine. The code used within the THERAC 25 machine was brought under the microscope. Further testing, pushed along by ongoing lawsuits, showed just how serious this issue was. Upon testing, the software was shown to be so inadequate that it could even blow fuses on the THERAC 25 under certain conditions. The code was proven to not just be badly written and poorly documented, but to be dangerous to the highest degree. The THERAC 25 software was a ticking time bomb, and it had already claimed several victims. But now, at least, it would claim no more.